like to do today is continue, and I want to start with a little bit of it's a really lame metaphor, but it's a metaphor nonetheless of what we're trying to do here. Let's pretend that we have this wellness table. Okay, so we're trying to, this table is us, and it needs to be supported by a certain number of legs. Let's say it's not, maybe it's like a weird shape, but it still has to be supported by a number of legs. We've decided the first and probably most important leg is, to support our health and wellness, is exercise, aerobic exercise. So that's the first leg. I know there's probably a far better metaphor than this, but it works. So the second of these legs that's going to support our wellness table or sharpen our health saw has to do with nutrition. Now, I know that a lot of you have probably studied nutrition. A lot of us have a lot of background in nutrition just because it's such an obvious component of our health and well-being. And some of the things that we talk about today may not be new to any of you. Some of it may be new, some of it may be, but I think it's good to just remind ourselves, or at least get ourselves motivated again to be eating well, and because it can have, as we all know, what we eat can have a major effect on how we feel, how we look, how we function, all those kinds of things. I started becoming a nutrition scientist or a food nut or whatever you want to call that person who starts looking at nutrition about 28 years ago, when I got really fat. I was huge. I had like 5 chins. I was really a large boy when I was about 19 or 20. And at that time, prior to that time, like in high school and that, I'd been really active, and it didn't really matter a whole lot what I ate because I was so active, so involved in stuff that, it didn't occur to me that there was any, this was back a long time ago, people didn't really, you didn't see a lot of obesity anyway, compared to how we do now. And so it didn't really occur to me that my inactivity was creating my size. And then I suddenly became quite inactive, and I grew. And it was at that point where I realized, I should probably take a look at what I'm eating, because that seems to be the cause of my size. And so I started studying nutrition when I was about 20. I started looking at I came upon a few books that were really, really interesting to me. And from that point on, I've been a student of nutrition. I've been a student of food and how we relate to it. I've taught full semesters of nutrition courses, the equivalent of our 10-20. My favorite area of nutrition easily is sports nutrition. I'm really interested in sports nutrition. But I have found over the years, well, let me ask you guys this. How many in here have been on any kind of a diet that was designed to modify your size, to make you bigger or smaller? How many in here? Is there anyone who hasn't? Raise your hand if you haven't. Okay, about half. That's a pretty high number. Most of the people I know, and most, if you walk through stores, there's a new diet every week. When you go to the drugstore or the shopping place and you buy your food, there's a new diet every week. My favorite one, I think, is the celery diet. familiar with the celery diet? It's like takes more calories to eat celery than there are calories in celery. So you're going to be burning calories no matter how many you eat. And that's like it. Wouldn't that be great? But what are the statistics about diets? We mentioned this in my class earlier today. Is anyone in here in that class? You're in there. This is redundant to you, Sarah. The statistics on diets are, if you're on a diet, if you start a diet today, a year from today, you will weigh 5 pounds more. That's the national, that's all the diets considered. The idea is diets do not seem to work. I know of one or two that actually, if you follow them really well, it's more of a lifestyle change than a diet. I've seen success long term. I've seen lots of success short term, but they don't lend themselves toward health and wellness for very long. But as I've been studying this over the 25 or so years that I've been interested in nutrition, I found that there are some principles that seem to be stable, that seem to, regardless of this diet or that diet, they seem to be, they seem to remain in place. And that's what I want to share with you today is, and talk about, and maybe if you've got questions about this or that aspect of nutrition, then ask. You know, let's discuss it, bring it out in the open. When you say, well, I've heard that, blah, let's talk about it. Because there's a lot of I've heard that in nutrition. So let me give this to you and we'll discuss it. Here's one more. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you we're going to talk about each one, and I want to elaborate on each one quite a bit for some and not so much on others. Did everyone get one? Okay. So, when I first started studying nutrition, you know, the very biggest thing was easily, the very biggest area that was being studied had to do with fat calorie intake, and specifically with fat intake. You know, what percentage of our diet is fat calories, whatnot. So, and it still seems to be the case that is one of the major culprits of overweight, obesity, and can have a dramatic effect on, you know, most toward health, like heart disease, cancer, diabetes. You know, our major killers are related to what we eat. I mean, we all know that. That's not news. I want to use, let's start with an example. Let's say, and I'm not an artist, so don't laugh, really. Everything that we eat has what 3 nutrients? One of well, there's 6 basic nutrients, right? How many have taken nutrition? How many in here have taken? So there's 6 basic nutrients. What are they? What are there's 3 that are caloric and 3 that are non-caloric. Okay, proteins, carbs, and fat. Those are the caloric. Non-caloric, vitamins, minerals, and water. Good. Fiber is caloric. It's a carbohydrate. So let's say that Okay, somebody give me a food, anything out there. What's a food that you can think of that has some protein, carbohydrate, and fat in it? Most foods has some combination of all three. Some are just one. Some are, you know, two of them. Some of them, a lot of the foods we have, there's protein, fat, and carbohydrates in it.